So, and for me, the idea right now is to say that you have art and sampling and DJ culture. There is no boundaries anymore. Anything goes. So the idea of looking at how theater and sound, because we're talking about communication, we're talking about literacy, we're talking about new ways of storytelling, all of that comes home to roost with this idea of the mix. So what I want to do for a quick minute is take you guys back in time for a second to a little bit of what we call old school. This is going to take a second to load. 1 second. All right, this is me in Japan at the Mount Fuji Festival, and I'm talking to Jean Cocteau for a second while the film loads. And while that's loading, I just want you to think about what would happen if you had a cell phone DJ battle, right? Because we're eventually going to do a DJ battle based on the whole iPhone application I've been developing. All right, that's loading. 1 second. Okay. All right. 1 second. You can show, little break dancing. Hold on. As always. Wow, Baby is hearing the hip hop there. All right. All right, 1 second. I want to show you one of the first recorded MC battles. Okay, there we go. All right, 1 second. And
the J Run DMC. Yo, y'all rocked it. All right. But let me tell you something. There are two other fresh MCs in the house. Special K and Kool Mo D of the Treacherous Three. What's up? Know it. Now, there's word out that there's a battle brewing between Run DMC and Special K and Kool Mo D. So, I think I'm just gonna back out. Word.
1, 2, 1, 2. On the mic at this time, the coolest of the cool, they call me Mo D. In the place to be.
By the way, just for basic reference, that's Vincent Gallo. I don't know if anybody knows the actor. He's in behind us when he was 20. Anyway.
B Jam Master J, 1 for the treble, 2 for the bass. Come on, Jam Master, let's rock the place. I'm a dominator in my field, and when it comes to rap, other rappers chill. But when it comes to rap, I'm the epitome. The rapper's title, and my title is Kool Mo D.
They call me Illa Fit Killer. There's no one killer. It's not Michael Jackson, and this is not Thriller. One death rapper, Cold North, and hang. I'm up Run DMC like Cooper Cool and the gang.
But I'm one of the chosen few. So when you need that lift just to get you through, all you have to do is say Special K and help is on the way. Well, I'm DMC, and the place to be, is with DMC. And by the time I'm through, you will agree, no other MCs rock the house like me. Well, I'm the coolest of the cool, they call me Mo D. It ain't another rapper who's as bad as me. I got a high-powered voice, I'm the party people's voice. I got so many rhymes, you gotta take in for
the party people, I'm so happy I don't know what to do. Cause I'm an MC with the rock, hold down with the crew. Rock from Africa to France and the Kalamazoo. And every place that I play, I hear
yeah, but I know that when a party is back, you need a guy to show you when and where to react. You need a motivator, that means you'll need me. Special K, I'm from the Treacherous Three. DMC, that's who I am. I love to perform, but I'm not a ham. My mother said do it, I said yes ma'am, and I can do it cause I know I can. I don't touch that dial, just sit tight. If you like that battle, that was right. I know you're gonna love this next act, cause we'll have that and when we get back. Graffiti rock, graffiti rock, graffiti rock, graffiti rock, graffiti rock, graffiti rock, graffiti rock.
All right. So, isn't that great? Old school. You gotta love those sunglasses, right? It's just it brings back. I was about 2 years old when that was going on, but nonetheless, the fashion statements, right? So what I want to do is just kind of get you guys into thinking about that was not only about storytelling because they had to walk you through the rhymes, but it was about an active social critique of the people in the room. It's what we call contested social space. So in the theory and literary world, that would be, instead of an MC battle, you would call it a dialectical process, right? And what I want to try and figure out over the next couple riffs here is just how people think about sound and memory. So The first record to really be made of strictly other records was pretty much Grandmaster Flash's 1981 Adventures on the Wheels of Steel, where essentially he took a whole bunch of other people's music and just played it all the way through. He didn't clear it, it just was a continuous DJ mix, and they put it out as his record. So there you have it, Grandmaster Flash meets William S. Burroughs with a little dash of Thomas Edison thrown in the mix. So the boombox that you're seeing there is a kind of a machine statement. Back in the day, it was a portable sound system, and that was something that would be able to think of portability as a basic social space, i.e. you were able to move with the soundtrack wherever you were. People would set up, people would start breakdancing, hang out. The outdoor scene was always how the art form was made to evolve. So Adventures on the Wheels of Steel and the boombox. Now, if we want to go back in time a little bit, one of my favorite composers is a gentleman named Stravinsky, and he has a great phrase where he says, "A good composer does not imitate, he steals." So if you compare Stravinsky to Flash, you can even see a very funny situation where Stravinsky remixed the American anthem and got put in jail in 1940. So that's his mugshot. And so I guess you can say he's a gangster composer, right? So the pun here is not only it used to be very bad to consider remixing, and the American anthem was meant to be a very specific sound that you were not allowed to ever change. But of course, anyone in the room could probably hear Hendrix's American Anthem and realize that that was something that was a signature sound of the 1960s, changing and transforming a memory that many millions of people know of. So in one era you'd be put in jail, in the other era you'd be on the stage of Woodstock, right? Now, the idea here is that a composer is an inventor of music. And the reason I'm using Stravinsky is that he's a very core DNA for 20th century critique of both repetition and dissonance. And of course, if you think about hip-hop, the idea of the riff, repetition is what makes a track work. If it's too scrambled up, if it's too what they call glitch music, it doesn't really work for certain specifics. So I'm looking at that as a kind of a bridge between what we call high versus quote-unquote low, culture. So speaking of low, let's go back to the bass. In 1915, one of my favorite writers is a gentleman by the name of Luigi Russolo. He has a book called The Art of Noise, or in Italian, Arte di Rumore. And in 1915, what ended up happening is that he created this manifesto for noise. And the book, The Art of Noise, is actually became a pop band in the 80s, if anybody remembers the band, The Art of Noise. So the reason I'm using this as an example of the art of the sound system is that essentially what ended up happening is he wanted to get rid of the band altogether. The audience went into a show, and there were all these loudspeakers playing crazy noises, and people got really pissed off, and they started throwing bottles at them. They'd take their shoes off and throw it at them. So this is like original punk rock circa 1915. And the sound system and the idea of getting rid of the orchestra at that time was a really radical move for contemporary art. So if you fast forward to Jamaica in the 1960s, by the time that comes along, like I was saying earlier, Stravinsky gets put in jail, but Hendrix gets put on the Woodstock stage, you have this idea of the sound system becoming a force in its own right. So in Jamaica, what ended up happening is that they would record what they call dub music, and reggae was coming out of this idea of the sound system so that you could have instrumental versions of songs that anyone could use. Now, on one hand, this went to karaoke, believe it or not, and on the other hand, it went to hip-hop and techno and drum and bass and dubstep. So the instrumental version became far more important than the vocal because anyone could use it. It democratized sound. It made sound open to anyone's voice. So in 1960s, guess what? A lot of the British rock bands like the Rolling Stones, and in the 70s, the Clash, the Police, all of them were hanging out, going back and forth between Jamaica and England. And what ended up happening was that the Rolling Stones even have houses now in Jamaica. The idea of taking the bass and foregrounding it, making it much more part of the track, that really revolutionized the sound of rock in the late 60s throughout the 70s. So as we now fast forward to the 21st century, techno, hip-hop, all the main styles of the urban landscape come out of this collision between reggae and the idea of the use of the studio as a compositional tool. So the reason I'm focusing on this connection between the avant-garde of 1915 and the art of noise versus this idea of bass minimalism is it leads us to this idea of the art form of the remix. Now, the person who invented the concept of the remix is a gentleman by the name of King Tubby. And in the late 60s, you can see him with a tape editing machine where he would edit out voices of songs and have just the instrumental version with a little bit of sound effects. And what ends up happening is having an instrumental version of the song and then playing it through a very large sound system allowed him to have different MCs come and sort of rhyme over the instrumental versions. So reggae leads straight to dub, because there's a great idea here of looking at dub as the origin of hip-hop. It's bass minimalism, taking certain very specific repetitive pieces and having someone rhyme over them. So contemporary storytelling is the idea of theater of rhythm. So the sound system becomes basically the DNA of how we think of hip-hop. DJ Kool Herc was Jamaican, and he came to New York, and he's considered to be the inventor of DJ culture, along with Grandmaster Flash. So the Jamaican aesthetic, bass minimalism, telling stories with sound, telling stories with the idea of repetition. Now, this is a global phenomenon. Anywhere you go, Japan, China, Russia, Brazil, the electronic music that we all know comes out of the logic of the city, mixed with the logic of this idea of repetition. So I'm going to wrap up in a second. I just want to ask one or two quick questions and then open it up to discussion. But how many out there have heard of Garrett A. Morgan? Anybody? Okay. He's an African-American scientist who invented the street light as we know it. But he's also one of the first black millionaires because he invented hair straightening cream, you know. So a lot of Jewish and black women would buy his hair straightening cream and straighten the hair and so on. You can see he's got this kind of Farnsworth Bentley style going, you know, Outcast kind of style. So basic vibe. One day in 1923, he was on his way home and he saw a Model T Ford car hit a horse carriage in the middle of an intersection. You have to remember, American cities were built on the grid, but the grid was unregulated. So you'd have motorcycles going, you'd have Model T Ford cars, you'd have horse carriages, you'd have people just randomly walking around. So there was quite a few accidents. And he went home and said, why don't we regulate the city, the movement of the urban landscape and create a way that, you know, people have to start and or let other people pass. So that's the invention of the street light. So whenever you see the red, yellow, green of a street light, you're thinking about a kind of choreography, a way of dancing with the city. Especially, say for example, if you go to Times Square and you can see millions of people move with the traffic and the flow of the patterns of the traffic, you realize that the street lamp on every corner of the planet has now created a choreography of the landscape of the city. So the street light, red, yellow, green, start, stop, slow down. It's this idea of dancing with the city, moving with the urban flow and looking at how that becomes music. So that kind of choreography is, to me, an art form in its own right. It looks at people like John Cage, it looks at people like Grandmaster Flash, and it says we accept both. And we look at how people like William S. Burroughs or Jack Kerouac have looked at this and made stories of collage, but updated it and made it become digital. So for the 21st century, the new artists, the new storytellers are going to be saying, how do we look at all of the history of these last centuries' recordings and make something new? So with that said, I'm going to wrap up and just say it's a real pleasure to work with you all, and I'm hoping we can have some great questions. But before I do that, I just want to show you one last video clip, which is a kind of sense of humor about how sampling has affected almost every aspect of the creative act. Anybody out there heard of Danger Mouse? Okay, he's an old associate. So he came up with this idea of the Gray Album, and what ends up happening with the Gray Album is that he took the Beatles album, the White Album, and mixed it with Jay-Z's The Black Album, and you got the Gray Album. So what's a bizarre situation ends up happening there is that he gets sued by the Beatles, and the Beatles have a lot of money, so you never want to mess with the Beatles. And what ends up happening with that is he just took the material down from the website and was like, hey, sorry, no money involved. But what ended up happening is that album kind of went throughout the web, and a lot of people were copying it, downloading it, and exchanging it, and next thing you know, they really couldn't lock it down. So let me just kind of go 1 second. So many files here. You guys are getting a little tour through my hard drive. Wow. All right, tell you what, let me just play the example, because by the time I'll let it play, I will show you. So, say for example, if you're taking this, and say for example,
Then I get an encore.
encore. Do you want more? Get roll with the Brooklyn boys. So for one last time, I need y'all to roll. Now who you know fresher than whole? Riddle me that. The rest of y'all know where I'm lurking at. Can't none of y'all mirror me back. You didn't hear me rapping right hands, G rapping is prime. I'm young H.O., rap break is dead. Back to take over the globe, break bread. I'm in blowing jet, blow express. Out the country, but the blueberries still connect. On the low, but the yacht got a triple deck. But when you young, what the fuck you expect? Yup, grand opening, grand closing. Goddamn your man, old crack the can open again. Who you gonna find open the hand with no pen? There's strong inspiration. Who you gonna see you can't replace him with cheap imitation? But these generations.
Okay, so you hear a combination of not only of just a small clip of the Beatles, but what ends up happening, let's make a visual rendition of the same material just to give you a vibe. And here we go.
Stand by, 1 to a number in front of the position. Hello, 3, coming to. 3, coming to. 3.
We are on 3.
What?
We are on 3.
Oh, yeah. You do.
So you can't say I don't have a sense of humor, right? But what ends up happening right now is I think you're going to be seeing a lot more of this hybridity, a lot more of this collage mentality becoming the basic vocabulary of how kids are growing up. And you can't regulate it. You can't say this is the way things should be or could be. You have to be much more open. So as an artist, as a writer, as a musician, these are things that I'm thinking about all the time. And I use video, I use sound, I use my cell phone, I use my iPad. I'm always trying to figure out new strategies for creativity. So with that said and done, I just want to say thank you for coming out today. I know you guys were probably thinking maybe this would be like me in the club going, oh, you know, something like that. But I just want to kind of get a little bit technical on you all, you know, just kind of up the formula a little bit and just have everybody thinking about not only sampling as an art form in its own right, but music as a kind of, music as information. So what I've done here is make a series of DJ mixes with my iPhone application. You can download for free if you go to djspooky.com. There's lots and lots of stuff from the Beastie Boys, from Mos Def, all sorts of people, Damian Marley. So feel free to download, remix, pass around, and so on. And I like to call it what I call the gift economy. And if you're interested in the Arctic project, there's lots of links and bits and pieces of the whole ICE music project as well. So the website's djspooky.com. And I just want to say thanks you guys for coming out.